The fear of abandonment activates inadequacy in others. In this episode, we are going to dive into the fear of abandonment, how to identify if you have abandonment issues, and 5 ways to start to heal. Welcome to the Abundance Hack Show, Season 4, where we are focusing on mastery. The last 3 seasons, I gave you the information. Now, we're focusing on integrating it into our lives and embodying it. If you are ready to master your thoughts, emotions, and patterns to feel whole, fulfilled, and really grounded in who you are without dimming your shine so you can live the abundant life that you truly desire, then you are in the right place. Hey M&Ms, thank you for tuning in to the Abundance Hack Show. What are you manifesting in your life today? If you are joining me for the first time, welcome. And although M&Ms are really yummy candies, it actually stands for Magical Manifestors, because this podcast is all about manifesting the life that you truly desire through mindfulness and mastery. And one thing that stands in the way of living the life that you truly desire is subconscious blocks and fears. So today we are talking about the fear of abandonment. I received a download, and when I receive a download, I have to share it with you. But I received a download that the fear of abandonment activates inadequacy in others, and it is a shame dance. So usually one person feels inadequate, like nothing they do is good enough, and their love and support isn't being received, and the other person is energetically pushing them away or pulling away from them. And usually this is at a subconscious level, so people don't even realize that this is happening, but it's a vicious cycle that I want to bring awareness around. So why do people develop abandonment issues or the fear of abandonment in the first place? Let's start there. Abandonment issues usually happen from a traumatic loss or when a parent or caregiver does not provide the child with consistent warm or attentive interactions, or they're not nurturing. So this leaves the child feeling neglected or with chronic stress or fear. So when this happens in the developmental years, it often continues into adulthood. They tend to repeat the pattern and attract partners that are not warm and nurturing. Here's the thing. Even if they do attract warm and nurturing people, they tend to block it energetically because they're not used to it, and they also don't know how to receive it. So it creates that feeling of inadequacy in the other person. Side note, if you haven't listened to The Art of Receiving, part 1 and 2, definitely go listen to it, because that is what this is referring to. Resisting the support and nurturing and the love that we actually are craving, but energetically we don't know how to receive it, so we block it. So if you haven't listened to The Art of Receiving part 1 and 2, definitely go listen to it. It will change your life, getting in that receiving mode and opening yourself up to the things that you desire through releasing the resistance. It's a game changer. So if you are not in that receiving mode and you have people in your life that are trying to love you, support you, nurture you, and they don't feel received, it activates inadequacy in them or insecurities because they don't feel as though they're being received by you, and maybe their love specifically isn't good enough. So it's really important to identify that vicious cycle. And that's why I want to create awareness around it so we can heal, grow, and cultivate the deep and meaningful connections in our lives that we crave. So how exactly do you identify if you have abandonment issues? I have 5 ways. Number 1 is extreme people pleasing. And I have to say extreme because ultimately we all want to show up for the people in our lives. We want to hold space for the people in our lives. So I say extreme people pleasing because you're people pleasing at your own detriment, meaning you don't have healthy boundaries. You're giving even when your cup is depleted. So if you know me, you know one of my favorite quotes is, you can't pour from an empty cup. You have to take care of you first. And I believe in giving from your overflow. So pouring into your cup to where you have so much to give, you don't allow your cup to be depleted, and you have a really good awareness around how a depleted cup shows up for you. So knowing those key indications of, okay, I need to take time for me, I need time for self-love, self-care, and being comfortable saying no, saying like, I wish I could, but I really don't have the capacity to do this. And that is so important to know, so you're not giving at your own detriment. And the reason why people do this is because they don't want people to leave them. So if I'm super valuable to you, if I'm doing all of this for you, you're never going to leave me because you're not going to want to lose all the things that I do for you. So that is an indication of abandonment issues. And a lot of this is subconscious. So no one in their head usually says, oh, I'm going to do all of this for this person and make myself so valuable they'll never leave me. Like usually, I hope not at least, usually people don't process it like that in their head. These are subconscious thoughts. You want to do all the things. If you're constantly doing for someone, even if you don't even have the capacity to, so you're still going, it's because you have a fear that if you say no, that person is going to leave. They're not going to want to be in your life. So a lot of it stems back to self-worth issues, and that all sits in our solar plexus. So another great episode to listen to is the solar plexus episode if you haven't checked that out. Okay, number 2 is giving too much in a relationship. So this shows up as in you're molding too much to the person. You're losing yourself in the relationship, the friendship. You're losing your identity. And if you don't mold to them, you feel as though they're going to leave. Or it's almost like if you don't blend in enough, you're going to lose this person or this crowd of people even. So this could show up as like maybe you don't actually like something, but you don't want to say, hey, I don't like this. You know how like some people are just afraid to speak up, and this sits in your throat chakra, by the way. So throat chakra has a lot to do with courage. And I feel like solar plexus and throat chakra, because solar plexus is self-worth, personal power, courage, but also throat chakra is social courage. So speaking your truth, even at the risk of rejection or disapproval, it's all about courage and being self-loyal. So abandonment issues tend to cause self-betrayal, where you are losing yourself and you're not speaking your truth because you're fearful of losing someone or a group of people. So number 3 is you push people away to avoid rejection. So this is you sabotaging a friendship or relationship because you're actually afraid of being hurt. You're actually afraid of them leaving you. So before you get left, you're going to leave. And again, these are all subconscious. So these are not in the forefront of your mind. It's subconscious patterns. And if you feel like a lot of your relationships or friendships are repeating the same pattern, so same situation, different person, that is how you know there's something deeper happening. And that is how you know that it could be abandonment issues. So pushing people away, pulling away, usually people do that because they have a deep-rooted fear of being left, so they leave before they're left. Number 4 is a need for continual reassurance that the other people love you and they're going to stay with you. So I want to back up a little bit. If you know anything about adult attachment styles, so pushing people away or pulling away is an avoidant attachment style. So number 4, that constant need for reassurance, that's actually an anxious. I say that word so funny, but that's an anxious attachment style. So you constantly need to be told that I love you, I'm here for you, I support you. Like you need that reassurance all the time because you are afraid. Like if they don't say like, I love you, I'm not going anywhere, you're like, oh my God, are they going to leave me? Are they going to leave me? So you need to constantly be reminded that they're there. And Number 5 is the fear of emotional intimacy. So this looks like someone who's super guarded and doesn't let people get but so close. So they're in relationships or they have friends, but they're only allowing them to get but so far. And like, that's it. Like, you're not getting any closer to them. And the fear of abandonment is actually a form of anxiety. So I feel like anxiety is at an all-time high right now, and you're constantly worried about, can you trust someone? Can I let this person get closer to me? Like, these are all forms of anxiety, and a lot of it stems from deep-rooted abandonment issues. So individuals who experience abandonment in childhood may find themselves drawn to people who treat them poorly and eventually do leave them, or they leave the person before it even gets too deep. And when this happens, it actually validates their fear and distrust of others. So let me tell you, our brains love to be right. So if you have a deep-rooted subconscious fear of abandonment and you feel like, if I love someone, they're going to leave me, our brains love to be right. So what happens is, any situation that reflects that or validates that fear, you cling onto it. And I'm saying you generally, like if you have abandonment issues. Not everyone has abandonment issues, but if this is resonating with you, the second someone leaves you or the second you have a reason to not trust someone and you pull away, it's like that ding, ding, ding in your brain, because that deep-rooted abandonment fear is being activated. And in the process, so here's the thing. I'm veering off my notes just for a second. Sometimes we have a tendency to see the world through a lens of trauma rather than seeing the world for what it actually is. So this is a really powerful question to ask yourself. When you find yourself in a situation that isn't pleasant, it's activating any fear in you, it's triggering you, ask yourself, am I viewing this through a lens of trauma? Or am I really seeing the situation for what it is? And it is so important to have people in your life that can give you an eagle eye view. So we have, the yes people that's going to agree with everything that we say. But it is important that you have someone in your life, because sometimes we are wrapped up in our emotions and we can't be that for ourselves because we're so deep in it. We're in the thick of our emotions and our feelings. So it's really important that you have people in your life that can give you an eagle eye view. But I also recommend, if you don't have people like that, being able to sit down in silence, turn off your phone, turn off your email, turn off social media, and sit with yourself and really ask yourself honestly, am I viewing this situation from a lens of trauma, through a lens of trauma? And be honest with yourself. And our bodies are so wise. So our bodies will not lie to us. So if you have to take a moment, place your hand on your heart chakra, take some deep breaths, get into your body so you can really feel into the answer. Don't think about the answer, feel into the answer. And let me just tell you, my therapist, she gets on me all this time. She's like, okay, you're thinking about it, but like, what do you feel? Like, our bodies do not lie to us. So what do you feel in your body? Not your thinking brain, but what do you feel in your body? Because we feel our intuition. So place your hand on your heart chakra, take some deep breaths, get into your body and feel into the answer. Am I viewing this from a lens of trauma? And it's a really powerful question to start to ask yourself so you can zoom out and look at the situation for what it really is. And to me, that is emotional intelligence. To me, that is emotional resilience, to be able to zoom out. And sometimes it takes time. Like if something happened and you're severely triggered, you may not be able to do it that day. But journaling, meditating, just all of the mindfulness techniques will help you get back into your body, zoom out, and start to regulate your emotions so you can look at the situation for what it actually is rather than a lens of trauma. And it takes practice. So be gentle with yourself. Don't judge yourself if you are not able to do it as fast as you like. It's practice. And depending upon the severity of the situation, it's going to be harder. So be gentle with yourself. These are just tools to help you regulate your emotions and regulate your nervous system so you feel safe opening up to love, opening up to affection. Like that's what it's about. Feeling safe in our bodies to be vulnerable, to love and be loved. Okay, so really quick recap, how to identify if you have abandonment issues. And just a reminder, these are all subconscious, so it's not in the forefront of our mind. So if any of this like kind of resonates, but you're like, no, that's not me, I invite you to journal on this, like when's the last time you felt abandoned or rejected? And kind of lean into that situation. The more we get to know ourselves, the more we open up to others. Like we have to know ourselves on a deep and intimate level to be able to have deep connections with others. And I don't know about you, but I love getting to know myself, like how I react in certain situations. And let me just also say, anything that I talk about on this podcast, I've done the work. So I have had severe abandonment issues, and I do have a fear of people leaving me. And one of the things that I realize is there's a part of me that needs to be needed, because I know that if I'm needed, the person won't leave me. And to me, I actually posted about this. Oh, this is so good. I actually posted about this recently. There is a difference in being needed and being loved. Did I mention that on another podcast episode? I don't know. The downloads are coming so fiercely these days that I don't even remember if I shared this. But there is a difference in being needed and being loved. When you have a fear of abandonment and you have confused being needed with actually being loved, you place yourself in situations where the person needs you. Like they need you for different things, like to help them, to transform them. A lot of women get into this pattern of trying to save men. A lot of men get into a pattern of trying to save women. It's these vicious cycles. And so really working on that self-worth, like I am worthy of love if I do nothing for you. Like if I'm not doing this, and this for you, and I'm literally just in your life to enjoy and spend time with, you are worthy of love just for that. And it's something that is so hard, especially if you weren't given love freely as a child. It's something so hard to really let sink in. Okay, I'm getting off topic. Okay, so how to identify if you have abandonment issues. Number 1, extreme people pleasing. Number 2 is giving in too much in relationships, losing your identity. Number 3 is pushing people away or pulling away to avoid rejection. So in other words, sabotaging the relationship. Number 4 is a need for continual reassurance. And number 5 is the fear of emotional intimacy. One more thing I want to mention before we go into how to heal the fear of abandonment is people who have abandonment issues tend to be attracted to or attract people who are emotionally unavailable, because that is what they're used to, and also people who gaslight them. So if you have a need or desire that someone in your life cannot fulfill, maybe they don't have the capacity to, instead of them just saying I can't fulfill this need or desire, they say, oh, you're crazy, you're too much, you asked for too much. And it's a way of invalidating your feelings because they can't actually provide what it is that you need. And so it sends the message to an individual that it's not safe, it's not okay for me to ask for what I need and desire. And it forces people to self-soothe rather than communicating their needs and desires, because they have this fear of, oh, if this person thinks I'm crazy, they're going to leave me. If this person thinks I'm too extra or too much, or I ask for too much, or I'm high maintenance, they're going to leave me. So this is a vicious cycle that I found myself in a lot throughout my life. Understanding people's capacity to show up for me and not wanting to seem like I'm too much or too extra. So I kept a lot of it to myself because I'm like, I don't want them to think this of me and then not want to be in my life. So it's these vicious cycles, and like me keeping my needs and desires to myself is a form of self-betrayal. So really just ending the vicious cycle. And let's just dive right into like how to start to heal from abandonment issues, because you guys, I can talk about this all day because I just realize how often this shame dance and this vicious cycle plays out. Not only has it played out in my life in the past, but how much of it I see in others. So I really think this is a huge, huge, huge issue that I want to bring awareness around. Okay, so I have a 5-step process on how to start to heal abandonment issues. So number 1 is having awareness around it. Asking yourself the important questions. Am I pushing this person away? Am I pulling away? And naming what you feel. So Brene Brown says this a lot, like name what you feel and really start to get intimate with yourself to be able to name it beyond just like sad, mad, or glad. Like really start to understand like, what is it that I feel? Like, do I feel rejected? Do I feel hopeless? Do I feel insecure? And being able to communicate that and speak your truth, that throat chakra on fleek. Did I just say that? I did. Throat chakra on fleek. I said it. Do people still say fleek? Okay, let me focus. So really being able to name what you feel to a person and having that social courage. So I remember a situation recently where I said, like, I felt rejected. And it is so freaking liberating to just speak your truth. And here's the thing. If your truth isn't received, don't go back into your shell and armor up and guard yourself. Continue to speak your truth because that is a form of being self-loyal. And you are going to attract people in your life that honor what you feel. And the thing is, like, we don't always have to agree, but we can respect each other's feelings, emotions, and needs and desires, even if we don't agree, even if we have a different opinion, even if we have a different need or perspective, we can still respect and honor each other. So continue speaking your truth, even if someone's trying to gaslight you. And I have committed, like, I am not committed to myself. I am not allowing anyone to gaslight me anymore. So I'm speaking my truth. I'm communicating my needs and desires. So that's really important. Okay, so number 1 is have awareness. This is getting intimate with yourself, getting to know yourself on a deeper level. Am I pushing this person away? Am I pulling away? And why? What is it that I'm afraid of? Naming what you feel. I'm afraid this person's going to leave me. And one of the hardest things that I've had to admit to myself, this is going to sound really bad if any of my exes or anyone I've ever dated listens to this. No offense, please don't take offense. But I realized that I have dated down because if I dated someone that I felt was like, oh my God, this is my person, it scared the living shit out of me because I'm like, if I find my person and then I lose my person, that is literally going to kill me. Like, that's what it feels like. That's why our brains kicks in and they're like, abort mission, because it's a fear of pain. But if we continuously run from pain and guard ourselves from pain, we are also keeping the love out too. No offense to anyone I've ever dated. If they're actually listening to my podcast, I doubt that they're listening to me at this point. But it's like, you know, there's so much programming that goes into it as well. Like we have been told, oh, you can't have it all. You're not going to find someone that's everything that you want, blah, blah, blah. So there's layers, you guys. There's layers. But am I pushing this person away? Am I pulling away? And why? And name what you feel. And be really honest with yourself. If you lie to anyone else, if you front for the gram, that's fine, but at least be honest with yourself. I'm not saying that fronting for the gram is okay, but at least be honest with yourself. Okay. Number 2 is inner child work. Inner child work is so important. So loving your inner child that was abandoned, loving your inner child that is fearful or insecure. And this goes back into fragmentation. If you haven't listened to the fragmentation podcast episode, definitely check that out, because this whole concept will literally expand your mind and help you start to integrate all of the parts that have become fragmented, the parts that you dismiss or deny, so you feel whole, because that is the key to fulfillment. So doing that inner child work and understanding you have a part of you that is scared out of their mind of being left. And so loving that part. So imagine like your whole self, or let's just say your higher self, is sending love to that part that is scared shitless. That will be you giving you the love that you need. And the courage that you need to continue to stand up, set healthy boundaries in your life, and speak your truth, and not feel like you have to lose yourself in a person. Really being self-loyal and honoring who you are, what you need, and what you desire. You guys, I am on fire right now. Okay, number 3 is understanding your own expectations and understanding other people's capacities. This is important. So again, this is really good to do through journaling, to understand what it is that you need and what it is that you desire. We have suppressed so much of our needs and desires because we've been deprived of it, because we feel like, we can't want this much, because if usually people that listen to this podcast have been told they're too much, that's my story. So I'm sure that if you resonate with me, you also have been told that you're too much, you're too extra, you want too much, you're high maintenance. And we tend to suppress that, dismiss it, or deny what we need, because we don't want to seem like we're asking for too much. We don't want to seem like we have too high of standards. And once you have identified your own expectations, your needs, your desires, what you want out of a relationship, a friendship, a business partnership, whatever type of relationship it is, then you have to understand other people's capacity. So I think that it's very easy for us to become self-absorbed, self-consumed, because, we have to look out for ourselves. So we can expect certain things of other people. And the same way that we want people to honor our boundaries, we have to honor other people's boundaries. So understanding people's capacity for holding space for you, for showing up for you. And that's really important. It's something that I've started looking at in friendships. I had a really difficult last year, and I've needed my friends to show up for me more than normal. And rather than me being disappointed when they don't show up in the way that I expect them to, I started to observe their capacity for holding space. And like I mentioned on another episode, having a good 3 go-to people when you're in a challenge. So how to deal with challenges, that episode. Having a good 3 people in your life. So if one person is not available, you don't feel isolated and you don't feel like you're alone in the world. That's really, really, really important. And understanding, so if you've heard of Esther Perel, she's a relationship coach, and she talks about how we can't expect one person to be everything to us. And that's a lot of pressure to put on anyone. So sometimes this shows up as like, your partner, your husband, or your wife, if you expect them to be your friend, your lover, your encourager, the person that's making passionate love to you, like if you expect all of these things, the person that makes you laugh, the person that is there when you're sick, the person that you do fun things with, like this is a lot to expect of one person. So understanding that and having different people in your life that support you and nurture you in different ways. So understanding your expectations, like, okay, I may know that I need a lot of support when I am launching something, because launching something is very vulnerable. Like when I release a new program, it's a very vulnerable thing. I'm putting myself out there. So I know that I need more support around that time. I need people that are encouraging. I need people that are going to give me words of affirmation and toot my horn a little bit, so I feel that, you know, like I have people in my corner, people to celebrate me. And understanding people's capacity, where there are some people that will have the opportunity to really show up for me when I need something. So me specifically, I launch things all the time. I'm always working on something. So it it requires a lot to support me, but knowing that I have like a few people to go to be like, hey, I need some encouragement. I need to be celebrated here. But this is something that I had to learn about myself over time, really understanding my needs, my expectations, my desires, and really being able to look at the people in my life to know like, okay, I can call this person for this. I can call this person for this. And when you actually sit down and pay attention to these things, it makes life easier, because we can get into patterns of just feeling like no one cares about me, no one loves me, no one's there for me, I don't have good friends. But it's like people are there. It's just really understanding what it is that you need and being able to communicate that to the people in your life. And again, that is emotional intelligence and emotional resilience. So being able to just take a good look at your emotions, your feelings, and make sure you're not viewing things from a lens of trauma, through a lens of trauma, and be able to communicate your truth to the people in your life. Okay. So I know I am like, I'm getting deep into all of the things. So let me speed it up so this episode isn't super duper long. Okay. Number 4 is understanding your values. So this is really important. And I've been talking about identifying your top 3 values often, because this is your foundation. If you are trying to decipher between fear and intuition, going back to your values and asking yourself, is this aligned with my values? When you're trying to make a decision that may not feel good to you. So this is also something, especially because I do sound therapy now, there's a lot of times where I receive a download, or I have some type of like feeling that this isn't right for me. Then I have to ask myself like, okay, is this fear that I'm like guarding myself from or armoring up? Or is this my intuition actually telling me that this isn't for me? And so having a clear understanding of your values will help you decipher and have that discernment of like, you know, this actually doesn't serve me. And just that foundation, having that solid foundation, knowing who you are, knowing what you stand for, knowing what your needs and desires are, will help you go back and be like, you know what, this doesn't align with this value. This doesn't feel like, okay, I'll tell you, my top value is connection. And if I ask myself like, okay, like say I'm pulling away, or sometimes I push people away, but say I'm pushing someone away or pulling away from someone because I feel like, you know, this relationship or friendship doesn't serve me. If my top value is connection, Do I feel like this person has the capacity to have the type of connection that I want, or does this feel toxic to me? And that will help me decipher and discern how to handle the situation. So again, getting really intimate with yourself to understand who you are, understand what you need, what you desire, and what you stand for. That is your baseline. That's your foundation. And everything else, you can refer back to it to see if it is in alignment. Whew. Okay, you guys. Number 5 is setting healthy boundaries. And let me just tell you, when you start to be self-loyal and set healthy boundaries, if you have to say no, if you have to say no to things that you may want to say yes to out of your own self-love and self-care, that is being self-loyal. If you have to share with someone, I really would love to do this, but I don't have the capacity right now. Like, I've had to start saying no to things. Like, I have a lot on my plate. I run a brick and mortar business. I have a podcast. I have 2 memberships, and I try to still have a fabulous social life and love life. So I don't have the capacity for all the things. So I've had to start saying no, and I've had to start really setting healthy boundaries and being very clear around, these are the type of connections that I want in my life. And if the connection isn't this way, I have to be willing to let it go, because I only have but so much space in my life for connection. So the connections that I do have, I want to be valuable. And I want them to feel good. Now, obviously, uncomfortable conversations happen, but I want to know that this person is just as dedicated to connection and cultivating a deep connection as I am, or I don't have space for it in my life. So really setting those healthy boundaries and being clear on what you have space for. Okay. Quick recap. So the 5 ways you can start to heal and grow from abandonment issues. Number 1 is awareness. Asking yourself the thought-provoking questions to really understand yourself on a deeper level. Number 2 is inner child work. So sending love and acceptance and nurturing to your inner child that is afraid, that is fearful of being abandoned, that is vulnerable. Sending that love to yourself when you need it, rather than denying that you need love or nurturing. Sometimes you have to give yourself the love that you are craving. Number 3 is understanding your expectations, needs, and desires, and also understanding other people's capacity to be able to meet those needs, desires, and expectations. Number 4 is understanding your values. Who are you? What do you stand for? What are you about? That is going to be your foundation. That's your baseline. So you can always refer back to it to find out if something is actually in alignment. Having that discernment is so important. Understanding the difference between fear and intuition. And number 5 is setting healthy boundaries. And if you lose people, allow it to happen, because when we lose what is no longer serving us or release what is no longer serving us, we create space. We create space for the love, the connection, the joy, and the abundance that we truly desire. So stop holding on to the patterns and the fear of abandonment. Stop holding on to toxic relationships or connections that are not actually serving you and feeding your soul, to create space for the ones that will feed your soul and fill your cup. Whew. All right, M&Ms, I am done. I know that this was a long episode, but thank you for sticking with me. Thank you so much for listening. I would absolutely love to hear how this lands with you, what resonates, what doesn't, what you want me to expand on, because I feel so strongly about this topic. I definitely want to do a follow-up, so let me know what you think. You can always reach out to me on Instagram at Niajae. And until next time, be decadent. Thank you for tuning in to the Abundance Hack Show. I would love to hear from you. Leave your comments and questions, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any of our yummy episodes. Every time you leave a 5-star rating or review, I do my happy dance.